Welcome, my friends, to Sanctuary Online on this April 20th. We are incredibly excited to welcome so many of you and to a new feature we have at Sanctuary Online, which is called Meet the Artist. And I don't want to jump ahead too far, but Edie, Disler, you have given us a whole plethora of new folks tonight. So welcome, everyone. And if you're here new to Sanctuary Online, we are a group of people who were in a pre-COVID world, building a nonprofit retreat center just east of Austin, Texas. And we've been doing that for a few years. And Edie is a good friend. She comes out quite often, brings the kids out to hug goats, right, Edie? Swim in the pool, having just a wonderful evening. So Edie and I go a little bit too far back. I think we met where Edie, we were just children. Let's just leave it at that. We were just youngsters. And anyway, so what happened during COVID is we realized it was a little bit silly to keep building a place that no one could come to, at least for a while. So while we have continued building Sanctuary in the Woods, we also built Sanctuary Online. And we've been online every Tuesday night pretty much since last May, the first part of last May. So coming up here on a year. And we bring conversation, communication, challenge, love, and support to everyone who shows up. And so your opinions are welcome here. Your comments and thoughts and ideas are welcome here. And we just are happy that everyone's here with us tonight. Because we're about community, one of the things we love to do is ask you to enable your video if you can. Anthony, I know it's 2 o'clock in the morning in Italy, so you just keep it dark. It's all cool, my friend. But we love to see your faces. And we also love you being in speaker view. Gallery view rather than speaker view, so you can see all the folks in the crowd per se, in our audience, rather than just one person. Also, we'd love to know who you are, where you're calling in from, and how you found us. So if you would open the chat box, and you can go ahead and type in your first and last name, maybe give us your email address, where you're calling in from, and also if you maybe how you're connected with us, or tonight, how you're connected with our superstar here, Edie Disler. We also have a text feature. I know many of you use this because, like me, you forget it's Tuesday. And if you give us your cell phone number in the chat box, we'll put that in our database. And on Tuesday afternoon, you'll get a little tiny text from Sanctuary in the Woods saying, hey, it's Tuesday, and here's what's coming tonight. So a little feature we just offer you. And so there you go. So beginning ahead, let's see, just to let you know, April at Sanctuary Online, we had our book conversation a couple weeks ago, and Barb Crabtree, can we just give it up? Any of you who were here last week for an amazing night of Barb, your stories and your photographs from Egypt, they were just, I've seen this a few times, right, Barb? And I still love it every time. You were fantastic. So thank you for that. And if you missed it, goodness, on our email that we'll send to you, if you give us your email address, Barb will offer a link to our YouTube channel, and you can pick everything up right there. Next week, just to remind you, tonight is a new feature. I'll say that we're doing something called Meet the Artist at Sanctuary. And so our first artist, we thought we would feature one of our good friends. Like I said, Edie is not only a good friend of mine personally, us having known each other most of our adult lives, but also a good friend to Sanctuary in the Woods. Edie, like I said, comes out very often, brings the kids out. She and Mandy come out, just a wonderful time. And so, Edie, we are honored tonight to have you. And then next week, we finish each month with a book conversation. If you haven't even started this book yet, you have time. The Book of Longings is a phenomenal book. We're getting loads of comments of people who are working their way through. So Eric, I can see you nodding your head, my friend. Yeah, pick it up. There's still time to get that book partially written and join us for the last week of April. Real quick, because I do this all the time, advertising May, we have an amazing lineup. Arbor Day, we're going to spin Arbor Day and Earth Day. And we have a wonderful other friend of Sanctuary, our landscaper, Bud Twilley. How many of you need help with landscaping? How many of you Texans were destroyed with the wintertime, right? Absolutely. So Bud's going to come on and help us make some good decisions as many of us re-landscape our properties down there after that. And then personally excited on Mother's Day, or the Tuesday after Mother's Day. Many of you know my mom, Granny Bell, right? And she has agreed, it wasn't easy, but she has agreed to be interviewed and to share some stories of her multiple generations and decades on the planet. We'd also love it if you all would send us in photos of your moms, your mothers, your grandmothers, your auntie, any mother figures that were in your life. And we're going to have a wonderful time on May 11th, just sharing. May 18th, we'll do our second Meet the Artist. We have an amazing oil painter called Jason Hanish, and he'll be with us. And then we will end the month, as we always do, with our May book conversation. So that's all the commercials, my friends. It is time to deliver the evening over. Cheryl, I know you and Edie have been going back and forth, enjoying kind of crafting this first Meet the Artist evening. So to the two of you, God bless, and they are all yours. I will staff the chat room. If you have any questions for Edie, as Cheryl and Edie move through the night with their conversation, just go ahead and put them in the chat box, and I will politely interrupt the two of them occasionally, if it makes sense to do so, to get some of your questions in to Edie. All right, all yours, Cheryl.
Thank you, Joby. Edie, you're gonna have to come off mute, girlfriend. All right.
Thanks for the pro tip.
Yeah. I'm really excited to do this with you, Edie. I know we've been friends for a long time, and I love your stuff. So we've been to a couple of you when you've gone out and showed your stuff. And so I'm just excited for you to be able to do this. So first thing I want to do is just, you started out, in the Air Force and doing a lot of other stuff. So you just tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I was born in Ohio, grew up in Michigan, and then went to University of Michigan, which is where Joe and I know one another from. I'm from Detroit. Dad's not in that picture. That's my kids, my brother, my mom. And so growing up, we were always pulling, we would drive along and oh, there's an antique store, I got to pull over. Oh, there's a junk store, I got to go check it out. Somebody asked me one time, how did you get interested in metal? And of course they were talking about sculpture, and I was like, I've been working with metal like all my life. So in 1985, I started powerlifting, and I coached the Air Force Academy team. And so that's me, believe it or not, in that red outfit, standing up with some heavy metal. That's about 200 and almost 300 pounds right there, deadlifting.
And those are the kids you coached at the academy, right? And you're
not the two guys in white shirts, but the kids over to the left in blue and gold, are some kids that I coached. Kids, they were Air Force, they were college students, but and then and then my first job was in missiles. That's why that big missiles there. It was pretty heavy metal. But we can't go through a day without our metal objects, as it turns out, if you stop and think about it. But I just have been a professional student all my life. It seems like the answer to everything is go back to school or go take a class. And I think I get that from my well-educated mom and dad, and my well-educated gene pool. And then I just loved growing up in Detroit and going to the Detroit Institute of Arts and all, and the History Museum and all those things.
So how did you get started in doing this stuff, metal art?
So, I through a series of unfortunate events. When I left the military, my transition into civilian life didn't go real well. My students were like, "Oh, you got 25 years in the Air Force and you got a PhD, you're gonna make some coin, man." And that's not how it went. I guess I'd have to trace it back to the first classes I took in art were while I was stationed in Washington, D.C. to get my PhD. And I was going to Georgetown to get my PhD, but I had some spare time compared to active duty life. So I took some classes through the Smithsonian Institution, including Introduction to Drawing. And I was one of those people that was like, I like that, I don't like that, I can't draw a stick figure. But you'd be amazed at what just an introductory class in drawing or sculpting or anything else will teach you. I guess in terms of art, that's where I got started. And then the reason I got into sculpting and jewelry had office one day, and they were like, I had a few different positions after the Air Force. And then finally I had a job that I liked, but you know, I walked in one day, well, you can quit or we're going to fire you. You can pick. And I was like, well, thank you for that. And so I was like, well, surprisingly enough, I had some GI Bill left, and I thought metal sounds cool. So I'm going to go to the community college and start some welding classes. And it took off from there.
Wow. So, yeah, let's go look at some of those classes then, Jovi, some of the welding classes that she was taking. And you can describe some of these photos then.
Yeah, sure.
All right, we've beginning with beading and weaving first
Yeah.
to start things, right? And then
So I think my buddy Edie is on. She might be going by incognito by James Ochoa. She might, her husband. But after this happened at work, I walked into the bead store, and there was my old friend I hadn't seen in a long time, Edie. I have to call her Edie 1 because she was in Austin way before I was.
Oh.
And so she and I did these beading class together, and that's just kind of how I got started, because I did that before the metal classes got started. It was giving my hands something to do and giving me something to focus on. And then in January, I started the welding classes at ACC. And they were just flat up, straight up code welding classes, but also art metals. Meaning, I tell people I'm really kind of a lousy welder, but I'm a pretty creative mind. So, you know, if you're going to slap some metal together, you got to get a skill set. And I've been working on that skill set for about 4 years now at Austin Community College. And if you go to, so here are some welding skills and some fabrication skills. Coppersmithing is one of the basic courses there. And so I've learned just enough to be dangerous to incorporate that into my sculptures.
Did you really take that piece of copper? Hold on a second. Go back to that, Joey.
Yes.
That piece of copper there on the left and make that pot on the right?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
You should have seen her
Wow. Isn't it
hand
amazing?
after she was done with that one.
Wow.
I can't begin to tell you how many hammer blows that is, but that middle picture is one way to raise the metal quickly is to pleat it and push out those pleats, and it pushes the metal over. But you have to do that about 12, 15 times.
Wow.
And then to be able to go inside of the metal and push it out to get that relief effect is very difficult. But it took me about 40 hours of hammering to create that piece, which I hope never to really work that hard again. but I learned a lot. And so I do smaller pieces now, and in the future, you know, I'll have more time. I might try to up my skill level because I just really enjoy copper.
Yeah.
And then another skill that we learn on the next slide, Joby, is forging. So, you know, part of the curriculum is straight up blacksmithing with the forge, which is a horrible place to be in Texas in July and August, but you do it anyway because the activity's fun. So, you know, the anvil and the hand hammering is one way to work the hot iron, but that thing on the right there is a power hammer. And so I decided to up my game in forging. So to do any mass kind of work, the power hammer really helps you out. And so on the left, that's kind of a sampler. You can't, this picture's a little blurry, but it's kind of a sampler. Like if you asked me to do a piece of railing, what would it look like if I forged it? And that's what that is. That picture, I kind of look like the Joker with my red mask on, sucking in oxygen. Oh, your Glenda said that her grandfather is a blacksmith. Oh, she can still smell it and hear the forge. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Clang, clang, clang. It's great. That's what my neighbors, Beth and Barb, are both on this call. That's what they're going to be hearing when I move back to Colorado.
Well, I
and
wanna-
a shop. Go ahead.
I want to go into some of your sculptures a little bit, but first,
Okay.
are there any questions, Joe, that we need to address or comments before we move into some of her sculptures?
You know, what's funny when you say comments, because there aren't a lot of questions. There are a lot of comments about Edie in the chat box, but I'm not sure I should. It's mostly how folks have gotten to know you, Edie. So it's wonderful. So
Oh.
how about if we do this old fashioned way? Is there anybody that simply has a question for Edie at this point before we go a little bit deeper into some of her individual work? That would be just called raising your hand. There you go, like this. Anybody at all?
How do you get your ideas?
There you go.
That actually is going to be one of the questions, but you can just jump in.
Yeah. Yeah, good segue. Okay. I don't know. No. So, what I've learned over the course of time is, you know, whenever you start your work, you know, your whole life experience comes to bear on, you know, when you read, you put the images from your life into that text. Yeah. You know, the nice thing about coming at this older is I just have a lifetime of experience. And so everything I've seen and done, if I haven't drank away that brain cell or whatever, you know, is in there somewhere, and those things come together. And it might be as simple as, I want to work with copper tonight, and I'll doodle a doodad on the metal table. But, you know, over the course of the next week or two, my brain will turn it into a sculpture. I may get it from chatting from people. I may see an item or a found object that I want to work into a sculpture. So those are the things that I bring to bear when I'm getting the ideas. And then we are going to talk about a couple of pieces where I had one idea, but the material told me, when I started working with material, it told me what it wanted me to do.
Yeah. We'll jump to that pretty quick. Why don't you just kind of describe this very first sculpture that you have up here, your first metal sculpture that you made, and that might give somebody some idea.
Yeah, okay. So I knew I wanted to incorporate these glass floats. I'm fascinated with these glass floats. People call them Japanese glass floats. They're actually used the world over, and even Corning Glass made them during World War II because we weren't on speaking terms with Japan. So the ones coming out of Japan, you know, had to be made by somebody else. The Europeans used them. And I wanted to use them, and I created this design, and basically the sculpture is called Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So there are military themes in a lot of my sculptures just because that's my lived experience. I do identify as an LGBT person, as a gay woman. And so I had to live under Don't Ask, Don't Tell for 25 years while I was in the Air Force.
Oh my God.
So what this depicts is, if you think of that large float as the organization as a whole, and then the organization sort of consciously places individuals from the organization over into some corner, you know, and that detracts from the effectiveness of the organization as a whole. And that's kind of what that piece is about. So it does light up from inside. So it's kind of our night light, you know, outdoors. It's not for sculpture. So that's where that one came from.
That's a very cool start. I mean, it's like, wow, what a great idea, and a lot of your thought process around it, you know, that this makes a difference to how the organization functions. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
So kind of
if you look at that thing closely, you can see the difference between my skill level then and my skill level now. So.
Ah, it looks good to me. I'm telling you.
Thank you.
Kind of taking off on the question that was asked just previously, do you like imagine a piece and then start, because you were talking about that a little bit, or do you start on it and then the piece just kind of tells you what to create?
Both. It just depends on what I'm doing. I'm kind of at the point where I'll conceive of something and then I want to go in and make it, or someone will ask me to conceive of something and I go in and I let my brain work on it. Again, if you do any kind of artistic thing, writing especially, if you compose music, if you compose sermons, if you compose whatever, you realize that you can't, you have to get it started, and then your brain works on it while you're asleep, while you're going through your day. So sometimes I'll just, and I've always thought anybody could think in 3 dimensions. I guess some people have more trouble with it than others.
Not me. I'm not good.
and so that is sometimes how I'll go to bed at night. I'll work on if I'm laying there and I can't calm my mind down, I'll sculpt in my head. I'll create sculptures in my head.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, again, the material will tell me what it wants to do. And if we want to move on,
I can head us there.
Yeah, Ted is to the next slide and she'll talk to you a little. Yeah.
Okay. So I think Jerry, who's online there, took this picture of me with the sculpture on the right is called The Heart of Its Women. And my dear friend Anna was running the Women Veterans Program and doing a big event at the Capitol for the very first Texas created Women Veterans Day. I think it's in June. And so this piece is called The Hearts of Its Women. And I had the impetus, I was kind of working with this marquee shape at the time. I had done some other pieces with military found objects. And this kind of came from a combination of those things and wanting to incorporate this glass float and wanting to celebrate this event. So this piece is called The Hearts of Its Women. When I was a student at Georgetown University, Wilma Mankiller, who was a tribal chief, I want to say Cherokee, if anybody remembers differently, correct me on that. Anyway, Mankiller was kind of like a scout, that was the translation. And there's a saying, the hearts of the tribe of a people are not conquered until, or that a tribe is not conquered until the hearts of its women lay on the ground. Meaning to me, you can go ahead and get through the warriors, but it's going to be a whole different ball of wax to try to kill the women of a community. Cherokee, yes, thank you, Eileen. So this piece is called The Hearts of Its Women because it's portraying the story of women in the United States serving in the military. That is an actual real antique Civil War piece of grape shot or small cannonball there in the middle, and then some 50 cal cartridges above it.
Nope, I thought I had it bigger, Edie.
Oh, no problem. So the cannonball is actually a Civil War era, but it's kind of meaning to represent that women have been serving behind the cannon since the Revolution, literally, and even as spies and armed people before that. So somehow we're left out of the history, but that's what that depicts. Now on the left, so that's a series of pieces I did with that is live 2-inch thick post oak or live oak. And those were remnants of a guy that made live edge furniture. Yeah, yes, Kristen, we know about the history. So here's some examples. On the first piece I did was that one on the left that it's called Nestled. It's got kind of that big sort of eye looking thing with the orange ball on the left. And that was one long board when I bought it. The 2 narrow ends were connected and the 2 wide ends were at opposite ends. And as soon as I saw it, I knew exactly what I wanted to do with it. I said, I'm going to place that down the middle and I'm going to flip it and I'm going to fill that space. So I filled that space by plasma cutting a piece of steel. plasma cut a spot for that glass float and then put in kind of a gasket with layers of leather. So it's quite a big piece. And in fact, I told him you can cut it right. I told him when I bought it, I said, you can cut it right here because I know exactly what I'm going to do with this.
Wow.
I took another remnant, a couple more remnants. The one on the right is called The Shape of a Woman. And I was going to do something different with it, but when I cut it in half and just kind of laid the pieces next to each other and suddenly saw this woman just sort of luxuriously stretching, doing her morning yoga, waking up. And I said, she wants to come out of there. So, I let her come out. And so that's a piece called Shape of a Woman. Hopefully it's fairly obvious that is the shape of a woman with those little glass floats I put in there. And then at the top, that piece is called Conformity. That piece is sold up to an East Coast collector. And that piece, that globe on the bottom right is a piece of sunk copper. The whole background is copper. It's got 2 glass floats. The whole point is you see how much I had to torture that piece of wood to fit it into that rectangle. And you see that because of the organic nature of the wood and the round nature of that brown float, the brown float wants to escape. So that is about what happens when you take people who are organic forms and you make them conform to a structure that they are going to naturally want to differentiate themselves in that structure somehow. And literally, I did not know what I was going to do with that remnant. I took it to the shop and I set it down on the bench and looked at it, and immediately Conformity came to mind. And I had to go over and do some angled cuts and put that together. So that's where that one came from. So those are all examples of where I knew right away when I saw the piece what I wanted to do with it, or it told me what it wanted to do. And just differentiating between them.
Well, thank you, Edie. Yeah, those are really good examples. And even as you were going through that, you named a lot of different materials that you work with.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering, in some of your smaller work, you work with a lot of other materials. Can you tell us a little bit about those as well?
Sure. So
You want me to move the slides forward,
Yeah,
Cheryl,
go to
and
the
show a
next
couple of
slide.
pieces?
Yes.
yeah, okay. So one thing that metalsmiths, metalworkers don't, nestled is about 4 feet tall, about that. Yeah, about 4 feet tall. It's like a room divider piece of art. It's big.
Wow.
And Edie, while you're answering this question that Cheryl just asked you, there's been 2 kind of questions that match up with this slide. One is name of your website, and 2, Darcel has asked if you ever intend to work with glass.
I don't intend to work with glass. That doesn't mean I won't.
That's what I was thinking your answer was going to be.
Yeah, because those glass floats, there's plenty of them around and I love to use them, and they're not terribly hard to find, but there are some really cool things when you slump glass over metal or you blow glass into metal sculptures. There's some really cool stuff there. So if I get a little bored or antsy, there's no telling what I might do. Yes, thank you, Barb. That's Porcupine Prose is my not very well maintained website, but at least you can get an idea of some stuff on there. So a lot of metalsmiths, what I was going to say is don't really cross over. They're either coppersmith or silversmith or blacksmith. But I decided I wanted to try jewelry just because. So these pieces are pieces of jewelry that I made and incorporated some different elements. You can see the one on the left has kind of this floating, it's got a piece of black onyx bezel set underneath that donut of blue lapis. So the blue lapis has kind of a floating effect. And then it's all held down with just those 4 tabs that I cut out of the silver. So it's kind of a little mini sculpture in and of itself, because it's not a technique I was taught, or, you just make stuff up. And that thing on the right is, that's a piece of agate. A friend said, oh, let's call it kiwi agate, because it's got those little green things in there. I'm like, that's as good as anything. I think it's called, actually, I think it's called jasper, ocean jasper. And you can see there that I also incorporated a porcupine quill. That is an African porcupine quill. I actually have a taxidermy albino North American porcupine here. And Mandy's like, do you want me to go get Pearl? No. So anyway, the African porcupine quill is I like it. I don't know why. Porcupines are kind of like me. They're prickly on the outside, just lovable rodents on the inside. And they're kind of a spirit animal for me, and they aren't a traditional Native American spirit animal, Jerry, but they do have an association with playfulness, and they are really cute. And they don't shoot quills. I'm just here to straighten out that myth right now. They don't shoot quills. A dog goes up and sniffs a porcupine's butt, and the porcupine whacks the dog's nose with its tail, and that's how the quills get in. Anyway, so the jewelry is cool because it gives me, in jewelry, our tolerances are like 0.5 millimeter or a fraction of a millimeter. In blacksmithing, my tolerances are 1/8 of an inch. So going back and forth between jewelry and larger pieces gives me different ways to look at them. And I get a better feel for the flame. The flame in soldering and jewelry is different from the flame in annealing copper, or the flame in oxyacetylene welding, or the flame in MIG welding. But for me, I understand the nature of the flame and the heat and what it does better going across those different mediums. And it occurred to me this past week, my mom's listening in. I remember like one of the last spankings I got when I was a kid was for playing with fire. And now I'm on this, meet the artist because I play with fire. The
next slide, some more jewelry. Yeah, some of the other stuff you did. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah, so once you have some basic skills or techniques, you can start applying them. And so I find antlers to be kind of fascinating and not terribly hard to find. And, you can find lots of Pinterest posts about how to make an antler ring or this or that. And so I just started playing with antler and inlaying some turquoise and some black onyx. And that piece with the little pine tree in the middle, I did a lost wax casting of sterling silver to create that little pine tree, and then hung it in the middle of that piece of antler. And actually Cindy Smithers is the proud owner of that now.
Wow.
She's somebody we know. I have an antler ring that I wear. It's deer antler and it's white, and I inlaid some turquoise, and I was in a store that is all things North American bison, all things North American buffalo. And the owner said, can you do that with buffalo horn? And I said, I can try. And I created that piece on the left, that's North American bison horn, and I inlaid a white sapphire in it. So lost wax casting, Ellen, good question, is you carve or create a little wax carving. So what I did was I created that tree using wax, and then you do what's called spruing it up. You screw it up and you cook away the wax in the kiln, and it just disappears. I don't know where it goes into the ether. And then you're ready to pour in your hot metal. And in this case, it's molten sterling silver. And then you plunge it into water and you pull it out, and you got your little whatever it was. But you have to do some sawing and some cleaning. And so that's how a lot of jewelry is made. your basic, if it's not fabricated, if it's fancy, it's got lots of diamond settings and stuff, it's probably made with wax. And then this lost wax casting process creates the piece.
Oh, sorry, if you have one more comment, and I want to check in with you something else. Okay.
Go for it.
Oh, okay. I know with these pieces, a lot of your pieces that you've already talked about, and maybe even some of this, I don't know, but many of them were inspired by your military experience. You know, we saw some of that even with the Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And you've got some pretty almost famous PTSD sculptures, and I wondered if you might be able to talk about those a little bit.
Oh, Eileen, yeah. So I'll address Eileen's. Okay, I'll address Eileen's question too. Okay, so this particular piece on the top left was called PTSD 1. Oh yeah, Joby, go ahead.
I think Eileen might be asking you a question privately because it's not in the chat. So when you answer
okay.
it, if you just tell us what the question is too, so we'll, no
Okay.
worries. Yeah, no worries.
Going back to jewelry, because it's just back one slide. I do have a sterling silver ring that I make for women veterans. So, you know, you'll see the guys, you'll see the men walking around with their black baseball cap that says Vietnam veteran, you know, or whatever. And, you know, some women wear the baseball cap. Most women I know don't wear a baseball cap every day. And I wanted women veterans to have something they could wear to show their veteran status. And so these are two different models. I've settled on a different version, but you can't really see it real well. So there's a little V in the silver and then a set stone, which reflects the service branch you were in. So Mabu wears one that's got a black stone for the Army. I have an aquamarine stone for the Air Force. I've got ruby for the Marine Corps, tanzanite blue for the Navy. I have two mother-daughter pairs that are both mom and daughter were veterans, and they're wearing their women veteran ring. And that's on whiskeyvictoria.com. Whiskey and WV in the phonetic alphabet is Whiskey Victoria, Victor. But I gave Victor a sex change because it's a women veteran thing. So WV stands for women veteran, and the phonetic alphabet is Whiskey Victor, but I gave Victor a sex change to Victoria. So Whiskey Victoria is that webpage. So what were we working on? Okay, so going
Here we go.
Thanks for that question, Eileen. So going back to PTSD, what I understand from gallery owners and other artists is they appreciate when you create a series of work around a theme or around a material. And so PTSD is a theme that hits close to home for me and for people I love. And it really requires expression. And a lot of the veteran art movement that is currently blossoming has come from art therapy out of Iraq and Afghanistan. Even if you go to the old school VA, like post-Vietnam, you know, they put together leather kits and they did paint by numbers, and just knowing that as an occupational therapy tool, that was really useful. So the art therapy expertise and world is kind of blooming. So this first sculpture I did on PTSD, it's about 3 feet wide. You can see I'm behind it. It reads sort of left to right, that, you know, you go in the military and you're kind of shiny and new, and the glass float, you can't quite tell from that picture, is coming out of the frame. Then you go in the military, you get olive drab, you get camouflage, and you're good, you're trained. But when you go into combat or deal with a hardship of, you know, it's hard to say what, That's where that glass float pierces that ammo can. And you can also see that the ammo brass, the brass that is behind the ammo can, that brass sheet, that's actually ammo brass, the same brass that's used in ammo casings.
Sorry.
And that one on the right is more banged up than the one to the left of it. All of that is mounted on a pine board because if you don't come back alive, you come back in a pine box.
Wow.
So to speak. That particular piece took Best in Show, the first Veterans Affairs art show I did, and it has been displayed. It's right now, it's at Walter Reed Army Medical Hospital, and it's between Memorial Day and Labor Day. There's going to be some exhibits at the Women's Memorial of Veteran Art, and it's going to be there for that with some other pieces of mine.
Wow.
Congratulations. Edie.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. The other PTSD is called Bodies. And my girlfriend, Mandy, is a combat veteran, and she's got the combat PTSD variety, as does my friend, Molly Mae Potter, who was a flight test engineer, but on deployment, she got not only shot at quite a bit, she got blown into a ditch by a mortar round. There's a long story there, but this kind of comes from that combined experience. So Mandy was a 50 cal gunner. She trained as a welder. They sent her to Iraq and they said, you're the gunner. So we don't need a welder, we need a gunner. And so she spent her deployment in the gunner's hatch firing a 50 cal. So hence the ammo box. In Molly's case, her worst PTSD stems from, she was a flight test engineer and somebody said, grab the camera, I need you to come with me. And they brought her and she was like, I had to go out and take pictures of bodies for a PowerPoint presentation to show, to show what our bomb dropping was doing or something. And it just, going out there to take pictures of the dead bodies, enemy, that set her off on a trail of several trying circumstances. And so this piece uses an ammo can. That sleeve is copper, is shaped copper, and the hand, I forged every digit and knuckle in that hand. It's forged and welded, and then I did that lost cast waxing technique that we're talking about, sculpted the little figure that draped over the glass float. And the glass float, I forgot to tell everybody, one of the reasons I use them is they're representative to me of humanity. Those floats are recycled, they're recycled glass. The glass is generally that's used in them. So that's why they're sort of sake bottle color or Coke bottle color, because they're recycled glass. But they're recycled, and I've come to believe that our souls are recycled from past owners. And so they're formed with heat, formed into a shape, they serve a function. If they're floating a net and they happen to break, they sink to the bottom of the sea. They once again become sand eventually, which is what they were before they were formed into glass. And so to me, that is just a cycle of humanity. Also the fragility of humanity. Once that thing is broken, it might have a hard time performing its function. It might be impossible to put back together. So some damage really truly can't be healed or can't go away, but it can be dealt with maybe. So that's kind of what PTSD is about.
Edie, if I can jump in, Cheryl. Jerry was asking, have you thought about doing a moral injury piece? Jerry, you want to speak to that? Just unmute yourself. You're muted, Jerry. There you go.
It's, say a drone pilot does something back in the United States and drops a bomb or something 1,000 miles away. He doesn't have the one-on-one. Or a woman who is a sniper shoots someone because that's her job. Her morals are coming into play And so they go hand in hand with PTSD. It's a new thing that's coming about, and we're starting to see more and more of it because we have so many women that are serving in the military that are in combat related positions now, even though people think it's quiet. I mean, we're still in a war that's been going on since 1990. And I met Edie a long time ago, but I'm looking at this piece and it's like screaming at me, but at the same time, we have moral injury that people really aren't aware of, the moral issues that our military members go through day in, day out.
Yeah, well, probably now that you've put the bug in my ear, I'll come up with something.
Well, and
That's basically about all it takes.
I was going to say that might be a good segue. Maybe she would like to commission you for that piece. So we can talk
here we
about some of the
go.
pieces that you that you've been commissioned to do. You've been asked to do
Yeah.
pieces. So maybe she's asking you to do this.
I would love to see this taken in a black and white. I know it's a sculpture, but you need to maybe think about doing some black and white photos. So you and I did a black and white of the one that you used as your card today. But this piece in black and white is even more haunting and telling that story.
Oh wow. I didn't think about that, Jerry. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting into your business.
No, that's
So,
okay. Thanks,
so so Cheryl brought up the commissions. We have the owners of a couple of commissions online. The very first metal commission I ever did.
Hold on, Edie. What is it? Don't let us guess. In
What
the
is
chat box. What do you think this is? Light up the chat box. Nobody has any idea.
It's the angle. It's not the right angle. Like,
A great angle. It's an artistic angle of a
Yeah.
very functional. Okay, Ellen, good idea. Ellen thinks it might be a necklace holder.
it could do that.
Come on, let's get creative there, Sanctuary. What do you think?
About 18 inches tall. It's kind of hard to tell on the picture. What
Okay,
the
so now
relative height is.
it's for long necklaces, Ellen. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, Eric, you got it.
North Hollywood gets the answer. So this keeps me humble, and I love being able to say that my very first federal commission was a pair of toilet paper holders. Yeah, I had these friends, a retired Marine Corps JAG lieutenant colonel, and a retired Air Force full colonel, Neil and Marcy, and they were redecorating their bathroom, and they couldn't find the right toilet paper holder, and they had this Asian theme, and so that part in the middle comes from a shape that's in a frame or a print or something that's in their bathroom. And black and red is sort of Japanese theme, and black and red is what works. So I put that red tile on the top, and I actually ordered a Japanese coin to put on the end of that piece of pipe to hold the toilet paper roll onto the toilet paper holder. So yes, that was my metal commission.
and the next, I'll move on. This was fun though. Thank you, and congratulations, Eric. You win a car from somebody else.
Okay, so here's a peek. Eileen, the owner of the piece on the left, is on with us, and Beth and Barb, the owners, the folks who commissioned that piece on the right, are on with us. So Beth came to me. She said, "You know, I got this weird shaped window. I want a piece for it. I know art doesn't happen overnight. Take as much time as you need to figure it out." So she was, and she didn't give me a dollar limit. So she was like a dream customer. And so the squares in that piece echo another sculpture they have in the room that's out of steel. It's a really captivating sculpture by another artist, but I wanted to incorporate that. There's two sort of large circles at the other end of the room. There's a large bicycle. One of the things Beth and Barb love to do is bicycle, and so those two large circles were important. And the shapes of the glass floats echo the colors in this beautiful Moroccan Oriental rug that they have. And of course, the shape was dictated by the size and shape were dictated by the space. So that's where that one came from. And it's called Bennett Lane because it tells the story of their home on Bennett Lane. The next piece, which I call Persistence, but its owner might call it something else. I don't know, Eileen, if you've given it another nickname. And Eileen said, I want to commission a piece. Eileen's an Air Force Academy graduate, so I know a little bit about that. I'm not one, but I taught them. And she's a pilot, and she's very proud of being a damn good pilot. She was a career pilot in the Air Force, and she's a pilot now for a contract airline. So it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do, but then I didn't have the skills for it. I had to get the skills for it, and I had to find out how to do it. You would be surprised how hard it is to find somebody to cut them. As far as I was concerned, non-negotiable. Nevertheless, she persisted. Persistence is about 20 inches tall, 21 inches, something like that. Eileen told me 13 inches, so I failed miserably on that count. But so anyway, that base is 9x9 piece of Carrara marble, which is a to scale. At the Air Force Academy, when the cadets come in for the whole first year, they have to walk what's called the strips, and so their whole big space is just this open terrazzo space, and then there are these squares made out of this marble. And I think it's just some sick bastard who wanted to see these kids slip and fall on this marble, which has to be horribly slippery and icy in the wintertime. Anyway, so she started her Air Force career at the Air Force Academy walking those strips, and it was the start to the woman she is now in a way. I wanted to use aluminum because she's a pilot and she's very proud of that, but I didn't know how to work with aluminum, so I needed to learn that, and I needed to learn how to texture it. So I was delighted to not only create this piece, the poem High Flight, which some people may know is very important to Eileen. And so that's why the sort of looping and swinging and flying piece. And were you to straighten out any one of those four pieces, the four of them representing the cardinal directions of northeast, west, south, if you were to straighten out any one of those, it would be the shape of a cross section of an aircraft wing. So I was able to work all of those elements into that piece just because of what I knew about Eileen and from talking to her. And that's how a commission happens.
Wow.
It took a year. It took a year to do that. We talked about it. She gave me a video tour through her house and her renovation and the colors and the shapes. And then COVID kept me out of the shop because I used the shop at the community college. But I think she was having her doubts as to whether I was going to deliver, but she got a beautiful piece, I think.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, Edie, this has been phenomenal. And I bet there's a lot of people now that are saying, wow, she's very specific and very careful about, you're very good about putting together exactly what somebody's looking for. And so I would imagine there's some people that are thinking, I wonder what I want. So you may get some commissions out of this, but you've also shared some pretty in-depth things about some of the thoughts that go through and some of the heart issues that you've come up with and that you've worked through in doing some of this work. And I just wondered if there was anything else as we wind up this as what you would like to share. Did you go? All right, Edie,
yeah, I think
She's there.
Yeah. The commissions are cool. I have to be able to represent what the client wants, but I have to do it in the way that feels natural to me. So that's an interesting balance there. But in terms of, this is healing for me because I get to follow through on a creative impulse. We don't always get to see a finish to something. Sometimes maybe you're a program manager, maybe you do a job where there's no deafening. Sometimes, you know the direction you want to go, but so it's very gratifying to conceive of a piece, especially if it's just from imagination, and carry it through to fruition and make something that will perpetuate my thought process. And every sculpture is like a poem. It's both a poem and a snapshot. To me, a definition of poetry is saying the most with the least. And that way, the snapshot of maybe not an action in time, but maybe a emotion in time, or a thought process in time, captured. And it will go on after I do. And I keep telling everybody my goal is, that's my professional goal. I think those are the thoughts. And the important thing is there's something like that for you, whether it's caring for your property, whether it's creating a beautiful photo, whether it's creating a safe and happy space where you thrive emotionally. I think those things are just so important. And so, you know, I'm almost 60. I'll be 59 in a couple of months. And I have finally found what I want to spend the rest of my life waking up and doing. And part of it is about somebody wearing a little bracelet or a ring or a necklace and enjoying it and finding fulfillment in it. And I get the added bonus of maybe they think about me when they put that on or look at that sculpture. So my buddy Edie Vitum is on, and she is an artist, and so I have found her compliments to be particularly meaningful. Well, she called me Edie 1 in a million. But
Yeah,
Is
Edie's
it freezing, my friends? I'm just wondering.
Edie's breaking up.
only
quite-
because, thank God, there's only a million of me.
Edie, we are missing
the-
your final
the
word.
shop.
Edie, we're
Oh.
missing a lot of what you're saying because you're breaking up a lot. Yeah.
Huh, I can't explain that. I don't know what's going. There's nobody else on anything on Wi-Fi in the house. I can't explain.
That's okay.
So I go to the shop at Austin Community College largely because I don't want to invest in this big heavy equipment until I get back to my forever house in Colorado. But having that time set aside to go and do that. Maybe that's what I've liked about school is, yeah, the Texas Power.
Nice job.
Grid, you can't hear me. You know,
Texas.
good one, Eileen. So, you know, if classes make you set aside that time, whether, you know, and I'm so, you know, yeah, I kind of, except for the creativity part, you need to give me a deadline to get something done, or else I'll go, okay, whenever I feel like it.
Well,
But you need to set aside for yourself that time and space to read a chapter in a book because your phone rings too much. I mean, you know, and my kids understand why I get home late on Mondays and Wednesdays and why I need to go straight from the car to the bathtub after a day in the, you know, forging or hammering copper. But maybe that's how I said it. I could not work from home.
yeah.
Oh, little laundry. Oh, dust.
Yeah.
I could not work from home like people have been doing over the pandemic.
You know, Edie, Joby and you have known each other for a long time. So she's known you quite well for a long time. And I'm wondering if she might have a couple of comments as to, Joby, maybe you could share, like, you watched Edie, you've known Edie since she was 20. What have you seen in her growth process or in who she has become or is becoming in doing some of this artwork? Would that be okay with you, Edie, if she talks to that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a Marine. I shut up and color when she's talking.
Ah!
But you can see there has been some mutual respect for our career choices over the years. Thanks, Cheryl. And before, I'll close this up, but I want to say, Edie, there's some gorgeous comments in the chat, so you can stick around afterwards and read these. I think, goodness, it was Dr. Aaron a minute ago said, I feel like the way Edie speaks is art itself, which is a gorgeous thing to say. So there's some wonderful comments.
you.
We are so blessed to have voluntold you, asked you, requested that you would be our first artist as such a friend of Sanctuary that you've been. And I also want to do a shout out quickly to Beth and Barb, Alinda, Jerry, Mom and Dad Disler, Cootsy, Michigan, go blue. Felicia, Tony, all the way from Italy, calling in at 2 a.m. The other Edie, Granny T, Eric, Eileen, Kathy, BJ, Yolanda. Edie, you have expanded our network tonight, and that has been one of the goals and the dreams of Sanctuary Online. We know you all can't make it to the woods, to our beautiful property. And when we realized that we could expand our communities through, an online weekly Zoom, by talking to wonderful people and having them share their life with their wonderful people and having their wonderful people discover us and just multiplying that. So Edie, you have done that exponentially tonight. So thank you, my friend. I will say, Edie and I we sort of knew each other because we were two little candidates on the University of Michigan. Edie was prominent in the Air Force ROTC and selected prestigiously to head into a missile silo, which was an amazing thing. So Edie was actually heading into space. I was heading over to play with some F-18s that were also kind of flying high, but not nearly as high as Edie was planning to with those missiles. And we were tapped into an honorary society at the University of Michigan our senior year for the work we had done thus far in our lives. And I look back to that, Edie, that was, the first third of our lives, right? And you had big plans and I had big plans, and we went and we saw those plans take some twists and turns. Luckily, we have stayed friends through that. And my friend, when I listen to you speak tonight, I'll start to cry here. You have taken some real hits, undeserved. But because of the world we live in, and this is a prestigious day to make this statement, people and organizations are not always their best selves. And you have been in the line and taken some of those hits head on. And tonight, to see what you have done to recover, to heal, and to inspire is it's a profound evening, my friend. And I hope you can feel the love coming back at you. You have spoken to many people tonight in a way that they did not know you, right? And so you've shown us yet one more side of the beautiful, sparkling, hard diamond that you are. So my friend, all honor and thank you so much. And thank you to so many of your friends and your family for coming out tonight and
Thank you, everybody.
Our Sanctuary Online community.
Thank you so much, Edie. I just wrote in true care of the soul. That's what you've shown us. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you have time in your schedule next Tuesday, come on over. And the next Tuesday come on over. And the next Tuesday, come on over. We will be here. And we just thank you so much for everyone showing up tonight. God bless you all. Be safe out there. Wash your hands. Night, night, everybody. You can
Bye.
unmute yourself and give Edie some love. Unmute.
Thank you, Edie.
Little clap.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. That was
Awesome.
amazing.
Unmute. Dollars there.
Thank you. Thank you. It was great seeing you.
Thank you. Love you
Yes.
too, Beth.
I miss you guys.
Really great. Love you, Edie. See you
Love you too,
soon.
Beth. Bye.
All right.
I'm Andy. I know you're somewhere nearby. Bye.
Love you, Edie.
Babu.
Edie, what a fan club you have.
Yeah, really. You have quite the fan
Bye,
club.
Boo.
Good night, Beth. Good night, Barb. Good night, Granny.
I have a lot of really wonderful true friends. I do.
Yeah. Check out all the comments in the chat. There were just some phenomenal comments. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Thanks, Jerry.
I'm amazed at how your brain works.
Yeah, it's probably, I don't know, it's probably a condition. It's probably,
But it's a good
probably in a
one.
PDM somewhere.
a good condition.
DSM.
Oh, gosh, the comments
Mom,
are
are you
wonderful.
proud of her?
Thanks, everybody.
Mom Disler, are you proud of her?
Pardon?
Hey, Ma.
I said, are you proud of Edie tonight?
Oh, heavens to Betsy. We're proud of her all the time, but this is just a really, really a special event. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for inviting us.
Oh,
That's so sweet.
Hey,
You're
Mary Jo.
We're good.
Carl's already asleep.
Carl's out, Chad's out.
I think Ida picked up the, sometimes I don't know where it came from, but I think she's picked up the habit of somehow winding up in some unusual artistic situations. And I'm in one now, but it's a whole different type of thing. But we're very extremely proud. And we're very proud of the fact that she has such a wonderful covey of friends.
oh yes, she does.
Right, they're all over the world. And Joe, thank you so much for having this program and organizing it. It's been a lot of fun. It really has been.
Well, we're here every Tuesday night. And you know what? If you all would like to come on Mother's Day, maybe you could even share a Mother's Day story about Edie for us, huh?
Oh, that might be dangerous.
Oh,
There you go, Edie. I invited her.
okay.
Oh,
Oh, there's my 81. Thanks for being here, 81.
Oh, I wouldn't have missed it.
I learned a lot from Edie's a ceramicist.
a
And I've
ceramicist?
A ceramicist, and she was an art teacher here in Austin ISD, so she's been a wonderful art mentor, and we would get together and make bracelets and bead and talk and gossip. And
Edie, you live in, so Edie 1, you live in Austin?
Yes, I'm South Central. I'm in Barton Hills area.
All right, when we get back there, okay, and things open up, y'all got to come out and hug a goat with Edie, okay?
Hey, I'll be doing, I can't wait to be with her and to hug a goat. And Edie's been my teacher too.
Absolutely. I don't doubt that for a minute. That's the right way to do it, right? Each of us teaching each other.
Been wonderful.
Edie, what's your PhD in? It's not in art, it's in something else. What is it in?
my PhD is in linguistics, and my area of expertise is sociolinguistics, so language and social context.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm not a prescriptivist grammarian. I just study languages that actually occurs, which is why I swear a lot.
Functional language, right?
That's so great. That's so great.
But I have to be careful. I think I dropped a few bad words in front of my mom and dad tonight.
I know. I tried to bleep her out, Mom.
Yeah, she
I
did
did.
3 of them.
Dad's asleep, but mom doesn't hear well, so it's okay.
One
I
of my
tried to bleep her,
favorite
Mom.
pictures.
Well, thank
Oh.
you. That was sweet.
Would you guys all do me a favor? Tomorrow is my mom's 85th
Oh.
birthday.
Oh, here it
Can
comes.
we have a quick happy birthday to you?
Of course.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
birthday
to you.
Happy
birthday,
birthday, dear
dear
mom.
mom.
birthday to you.
My dog's barking a
Thank you.
happy birthday.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And Dad missed it, but it's recorded. No, that's not recorded.
It's
It's
recorded.
okay.
Oh, I've recorded it. I've kept it going because I even got Granny T to put her camera on for a minute there, Mom. So good, good. All right, my friends, I'm going to cut you off because I know that we can talk all night.
Granny T is also an artist. Yep. Love you.
Hi, Granny. Hi, Granny T.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye, Granny.
Thank you.
Bye.
Night.
Bye now.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, Mom.
Bye.
Bye, Eileen. Your picture.
Gotta exit. They waiting.